All right, we all think we know the story of Harry Potter, right? The ultimate Gryffindor hero. But what if one tiny choice flipped the entire script? We're about to dive into a wild what if that completely changes how the fight against Voldemort could have gone down.
So let's get right to it. What if the boy who lived ended up in Slytherin? Think about that. The symbol of all that is good and brave, suddenly wearing green and silver. Would he still have been a hero? Or would the entire wizarding world have been doomed?
You know, the crazy thing is, this whole alternate reality, it all comes down to one single moment, the sorting ceremony. We're not talking about some grand change in the prophecy or adding some new character. Nope. It all hinges on one simple, tiny choice made by an 11-year-old kid.
And what's so fascinating is that the Sorting Hat was genuinely stumped. I mean, it saw the Gryffindor stuff, for sure. The bravery, the nerve, all there. But it also saw this deep-seated ambition, this cunning, this need to prove himself. All of that, it just screamed Slytherin. He was honestly a perfect fit for either house.
In this right here, this is the absolute key. The hat didn't just plop onto his head and make a decision. It listened to him. Harry's entire destiny wasn't written in stone by his talents. It was shaped by his personal choice to say, not Slytherin. So just imagine for a second, what if he kept his mouth shut? Okay, so let's play this out. The hat yells Slytherin. What's the very first thing that happens? Bam. His entire social life is instantly obliterated and rebuilt from scratch. Because you gotta remember, at Hogwarts, a house isn't just where you sleep. It's your family, your team, your whole world.
And that brings us to the big trade-off. Being in Gryffindor gave him this toolkit built on friendship, loyalty, emotional support. But in Slytherin, he'd be trading that all in for a completely different set of tools. We're talking strategic alliances, political connections, a mindset that favors cold, patient planning over just rushing in. He wouldn't just be losing Ron and Hermione, he'd be losing his entire way of operating.
But hold on, does swapping a red and gold tie for a green and silver one really change who Harry is deep down? This right here is where this whole idea gets really interesting. Because the answer is, probably not. Think about it. Harry's core values, his moral compass, that wasn't built in the Gryffindor common room. It was forged in a dark cupboard under the stairs. Living with the Dursleys taught him one thing above all else, what it feels like to be small, to be powerless, to be bullied. That incredible empathy he has, that instinct to stand up for the little guy, that's not a Gryffindor thing. That's a Harry thing.
So let's put it together. You take Harry's unshakable moral core, and you hand him a Slytherin's toolkit. What do you get? Well, and this is the paradox, you might just get a better, more dangerous enemy for Voldemort, an enemy who can turn the Dark Lord's favorite traits right back against him. And oh, the irony is just beautiful. See, Voldemort is 100% convinced that things like ambition and cunning are only for gaining power, for dominating others. It would never, ever cross his mind that his #1 enemy could master those same skills and use them to protect people. Harry would become his worst nightmare. A rival who gets how he thinks, but is fueled by everything he hates.
So what would that actually look like? Well, a Slytherin Harry would probably be way more pragmatic, right? Instead of being terrified of his connection to Voldemort, he'd lean into it. He'd study it. He'd use his Parseltongue as a tool, not a curse. He might even study the dark arts, not to use them, but to understand them. And this cold, logical approach, it could lead him to figure out the whole Horcrux secret way sooner, turning the war from a desperate hunt into a calculated, step-by-step demolition.
But honestly, the biggest threat a Slytherin Harry would pose isn't just about strategy. It's ideological. He could become something Voldemort could never, ever anticipate. A rebellion starting from inside his own house. Just think about it for a second. Voldemort's entire support system, his power, it's all built on the loyalty of these old Slytherin families. So what happens when the most famous wizard in the world, the boy who lived himself, is one of them, a leader in their house? He could show them a different way, a way to be ambitious and powerful without all the pureblood nonsense. He could literally crack Voldemort's foundation from the inside out, turning his biggest strength into his biggest weakness.
And really, at the end of the day, this whole thought experiment just brings us back to one of the most important lessons in the entire series. Something Dumbledore himself said. Putting Harry in Slytherin, it wouldn't change his fundamental choices. He'd still choose to do what's right, to protect his friends, to fight Voldemort. The only thing that would change
is how he goes about it. So, that leaves us with this one last huge question. If Harry had embraced the ambition and cunning of Slytherin, would he have become an even greater hero, a more effective, more decisive enemy for Voldemort? Or would the constant whispers in the dungeons, the dark influences of that house, have slowly twisted him into the very thing he was supposed to fight? It really makes you think about how much our surroundings, the people we call our own, truly shape who we become.